Hello YouTube! Welcome back to another video. As some of you may have already noticed, this one's going to be a little bit different from some of the previous videos that I've posted on this channel. That's because today I wanted to share another one of my hobbies with you, which is playing role-playing games. Specifically, I wanted to talk about my style of campaign building and how I utilize Trello boards to design new campaigns. Just a little disclaimer before I get started. This method will not work for everybody. I've sort of developed this cool little trick as a way to get all my players onto the same page about how a new campaign is going to be run. I've had way too many times in my previous games where players have just stopped showing up simply because the campaign didn't turn out the way they thought it would. For those of you who have a steady group of regulars or who run campaigns regularly, you probably won't need to do this extra bit of work in order to make a fun campaign. This video is directed towards people or groups who haven't really been playing together for a very long time and might need a system to keep everybody together and organized. Anyways, this is a Trello board. I believe that its primary purpose is to be utilized for brainstorming or managing production pipelines, but in our case, we're just going to be using it for brainstorming. What you do is you create a list of topics that you want to talk about in order and place them in the Topics to Discuss column. Then I figure out tags for everything, such as theme or timing. I give each card one single specific tag. After I've built the list, I get all of my players together, and we go through each topic one by one, and when we're done talking about something, we leave a comment on the card about what we talked about if necessary, and then put a tag on it that says Finished Topics. This is a way for us to hold ourselves accountable when making decisions. When a card is marked with a Finished Topics tag, we don't move it from the current location, and we don't change our minds about our decision for the rest of the meeting. Many of these cards stay in the Topics to Discuss column, but sometimes it's easier to visualize our decisions if we move the card to either the Including or the Excluding column. For example, we may decide that we don't want to utilize permadeath in our next campaign. In that case, we can move it to the Excluding column and place a Finished Topics tag on it. Once all of the cards have been marked with the Finished Topics tag, you're all done. Now all the players should be on the same page about how the campaign is going to work, and you have a reference sheet that you can look back at whenever you're building the campaign world. Now I want to jump over to some other footage and show how this works in action with my most recent campaign planning session. So expectations for today, we just want to get through this list. There's going to be stuff we're going to need to add to it, because unlike Stars Without Number, when I made that Trello board, there was actually a list of rule modules in the rule book, which here there is not. So we will be adding our own cards as we sort of brainstorm and come up with ideas. I meant to do edit labels, finish topic. Okay. Cool.
The relentless efficiency of GUI application.
Yes.
Well, in all honesty, just having to deal with that in my own campaign, I've never run a campaign without everyone being, or running a session without everyone being there.
So that makes total sense. I think I agree with you that that's probably the way that we want to run this. Is what we want to shoot for.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we pencil it in as weekly, then end up having to skip like one every 3 weeks or one every 2 weeks or anything on average, just because of people not being available for any other reason, is that like okay with people, or would it get annoying or bothersome having a time slot reserved every week and having just so many of those weeks end up getting called off? Like, is that something that people would be bothered with, or is that something that's fine if that's kind of expected?
Well, what could happen is if someone can't make one of the weekly meetings, it could just get pushed to like tomorrow. Like we could make an agreement, maybe even put 2 times down, if that's possible.
Oh, like a
Or
backup
we can
time.
have a backup time. And then if we can't get one person on the regularly scheduled time, maybe that just gets shifted over to the backup time. I know that makes scheduling a little bit more awkward, but I don't feel like, if someone can't make it one day, that doesn't mean that the entire week has to be lost.
Yes.
Genre, fantasy? Question mark?
I don't
Yeah.
have any objections.
Does any? I basically wanted to still leave this up for debate in case anybody had thought of a really cool campaign idea that takes place in a different genre. Does anybody have something that they would like to share? Because I know none of us are heavily invested in fantasy, but we also don't have anything else that we would like to do more.
I mean, it's like I have ideas, but I also want to do fantasy, so.
Okay. Okay. Campaign alignment. We can do this one really quickly. Are you guys going to be good guys, evil guys, or neutral guys? That's all I want to talk about. Because we can have an evil campaign.
Me, I have no idea what everyone else thinks, but if I could throw out a suggestion, maybe neutral, and that way, if we want, our characters can be free to be developed to be like lean evil or lean good if we want to make our character be more one or the other.
Yeah, I think, and alongside that, I think this should be a quote-unquote neutral campaign, just because if we're going for that more or less realism, there's very few options are there good and bad,
Right.
especially when it comes to medieval type stuff.
I kind of feel like starting the characters at level 1, if we want to focus more on progression, which I think would be nice, it makes sense to start at level 1 and have an idea for a feat that you want, but you can't quite get it yet. That kind of encourages you to participate more and actually want to play the game, I feel like. At least at the very beginning. So, I kind of like the idea of starting at level 1 rather than 2 or 3.
Jacob, Vince, do you guys have any strong feelings one way or the other?
I'm afraid this is another one where I do not. I'll leave this up to what the rest of you guys come to a consensus on.
Well, I mean, I feel like we could always just start at level 1, and if after like a session or whatever we feel like it's just really limiting us, then we could just bump us up.
I think that's a
For the next
fantastic
one.
idea. It's a fantastic idea.
Except that one. That idea I hate and refuse to agree with.
Someone kicked this man.
I'm sorry, Jacob.
How does everybody else feel about that? Is that okay? Because I personally actually think that's a fantastic idea.
Yes, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
Sounds fine by me.
We have about 14 minutes left, by the way.
Oh.
Random idea. Why? If it's something small, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well, no, go ahead.
Okay, so here's a random idea you can put in the list. What if just out of the gate, we don't necessarily exactly know what our villain is yet, but there's something happening in the world, like maybe there's some unstable magic that's just corrupting some places and we don't know where exactly it's coming from or why that's happening. And we can have a sort of motivation be to go to some place and figure something out, not going super into like mystery murder novel level of needing investigation or anything.
Uh-huh.
But we find out that maybe like that unstable magic was caused by a cult that's releasing magic and then just letting it do whatever the fuck it wants because they think that that's more moral than controlling the magic or something like that.
Okay.
Just have there be like a sort of like steps in the story where we start with a mystery. What's that?
Magical PETA.
Magical PETA. Magic PETA. That's a great idea.
Okay.
But yeah, something like a
I know-
multi-layered story where something weird is happening and we don't quite know why yet, and then we do a little bit of investigation, then we get another lead onto something else that's happening.
I know exactly what to call this.
Yeah, because
So basically, I wouldn't have to decide what the story's about until later.
Exactly.
I think, okay, yeah, we'll put that in there.
So on that note, we should be open about communicating when we're not enjoying something. That
Yes.
should be pretty. That's something we should focus on doing.
Okay.
Please,
It shouldn't
please
be
do.
a thing where we're just like, oh, I really hate this, but I'm not gonna say anything because I think it might piss someone off. let's try not to do that.
Absolutely.
Let's just communicate about
And
what-
don't and let's not worry about hurting each other's feelings either. Be so long as we're all vigilant in saying, you know, okay, I like this idea, but I need to be ready to let it go should I meet resistance. Um, I think that will allow us to all be like, okay, we're never gonna have hurt feelings among
I
one
find you
another.
all moderately okay human beings.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I take
So-
that as a compliment.
All in all, that whole process only took us an hour and a half. So it was a pretty short and sweet way for all of us to get together, discuss how we felt about certain topics, and all get on the same page before I got around to building the next campaign. But anyways, that's it for today, and I hope you all will find this information helpful when you're planning your next campaign. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.